The Ratner's Group was a highly popular jewelry chain in the UK with a broad customer base. The company was known for its affordable jewelry, which brought it great success. However, a single speech by Gerald Ratner completely destroyed this success.
And it comes complete with 6 glasses on a silver-plated tray that your butler could bring you in and serve you drinks on. And it's really only cost £4.95. People say to me, how can you sell this for such a low price? I say, because it's total crap.
Gerald Ratner took the stage at an event organized by the Institute of Directors in the UK. In his speech, he intended to humorously highlight the affordability of the company's products. However, he expressed this joke poorly and jokingly referred to his own products as rubbish. Additionally, Ratner described a wine glass sold in Ratner's stores as being so cheap it could break the pea under the couch. While he intended it as a joke, these remarks were taken seriously by the public and were met with strong negative reactions. Following this speech, Ratner's Group's reputation suffered significant damage. The media and the public took his remarks seriously, leading to a widespread perception that Ratner's products were worthless. Consumers began to believe that the products sold to them were of poor quality, which severely undermined customer trust. The company's shares rapidly lost value, and it ultimately incurred billions of pounds in losses. Following this incident, Ratner was forced to resign from the company, and efforts were made to improve the company's financial structure. However, the recovery took a long time, and the Ratner's name was eventually wiped out from the business world. This incident highlights how crucial it is for business people to be careful when speaking publicly. Misunderstood jokes can lead to significant consequences, and it shows just how devastating a loss of trust can be in the business world. A few poorly chosen words can be powerful enough to bring down a large company. Why do you think people misunderstood what Ratner said? Where did he go wrong? Let's take a closer look at communication and relationships now. Communication and language are indeed fascinating concepts. Let's start with an interesting fact. What would you say if I told you there's a language spoken by only one person in the world? Yes, there is indeed a language spoken by only 2 people. The more ironic part is that these 2 people don't speak to each other because they are estranged. This is a language called Ayapaneco, spoken in Mexico.
Huasna, Tucuna, Baxna, Bosna. Lo demás sale el español. Puedes contar 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pero ya es español.
It is known that Ayapaneco is spoken by only a few elderly natives. The most remarkable part was that, for many years, the language was spoken only by 2 elderly men, Manuel Segovia and Isidro Velázquez. However, the fact that these 2 men did not speak to each other had weakened the language significantly, bringing it to the brink of extinction. While the 10 most spoken languages are spoken by about 50% of the world's population, 90% of the world's languages are spoken by only 10% of the population. This means thousands of languages are spoken by very small communities. Many of these languages are at risk of extinction. Why do you think 90% of languages are spoken by only 10% of the world? Isn't there something strange here? Everything is moving so fast. So, what keeps us together in all this chaos? Communication. Communication is the way people share information, feelings, and thoughts with each other. Communication can take many forms, such as words, gestures, facial expressions, pictures, writings, and even sign language. Communication occurs between two or more people. One person wants to convey something and expresses it in some way through speaking, writing, or gestures. The other person receives the message and tries to understand it. Communication is not only through words. Eye contact, hand gestures, and facial expressions are also forms of communication. People started communicating by drawing pictures on cave walls. Now, we send 50 emojis while texting, emojis flying across the screen. But it's not that simple. Communication is much more than we think. Why do you think people have started using emojis? What might this indicate about what influences communication? Of course, sometimes misunderstandings happen. Imagine a child sending a big smiling emoji to their best friend, but the friend misinterprets the message. The child might be trying to express how happy they are, but the friend thinks they're being sarcastic. This small misunderstanding could perhaps cause tension in the friendship. Smoke signals, pigeons, and now the internet. Communication has evolved so much throughout history that today we can talk to the other side of the world in just seconds. What about animals? They can communicate too. For example, elephants send messages to their friends miles away using their feet. Bees, they communicate by dancing to indicate the location of food. Yes, you heard it right. Dancing. Communication is everywhere. Communication may seem easy, but the reality is far from simple. Sometimes, without realizing it, we make communication errors. Yes, these are the mysterious traps of communication. Ratner is just one of those who fell into one of these traps. The game of Chinese whispers. We all know this game, right? The message changes along the way. In real life, this can happen too. Something that was said can turn into something completely different. And there you have it, misunderstandings. Have you ever experienced something like this? Have you ever been misunderstood? What did you do then? Emotions are like balloons inside us, ready to burst. If we're happy, we're like a balloon about to pop with excitement. If we're sad, we're like a balloon slowly deflating. But sharing these balloons is one of the most powerful moments of communication. For example, sharing a success. This means expressing your emotions as you feel them. Happiness grows when shared, and when you share it with your friends, just like a colorful balloon, that happiness floats in the air. But what about when you're angry? That's when things get tricky. When you're struggling to express your emotions, it feels like the air is slowly escaping from the balloon. Taking a moment to stop and breathe before you burst might be a good idea. Without empathy, we can't walk the same path. If one person is sad or anxious and the other doesn't care, that's a serious communication error. Trying to understand each other and establishing empathy is crucial in communication. Otherwise, communication can suddenly break down. Why is it so important in communication to understand not just what others say, but also the emotions behind their words, meaning to have empathy? Communication is not just about speaking or writing. Emotions, intentions, expectations, all of these are part of the process. Without empathy and trying to understand the other person, it's impossible to communicate effectively. Ratner's significant business loss, languages disappearing because of estranged people, or just a misinterpreted emoji. All these examples show that even the smallest mistake in communication can lead to major consequences. The most important element in communication is trying to understand. No matter how well we express ourselves, how the other person perceives us, and how our words are interpreted is not always within our control. Therefore, to establish proper and effective communication, we must be clear, understandable, and empathetic.